The Boston Herald's Andrew Callahan chiming in as well, writing, Mac has lost the locker room. One team source said the locker room is 80-20 out on Mac. Another said the vast majority of players are done with him. We've also heard that from Mike Giardi, Phil Perry, and you would assume that Mac has lost the starting job once and for all, right? But not so fast, because the Patriots letting media stick around practice a little longer than normal today. And what did they see? Well, you saw Mac Jones getting first-team reps with the starters. And for more, we're going to bring in our Patriots insiders, Tommy Curran, Phil Perry, as well as WEEI's Andy Hart, as we just get right into the deep dive. And gentlemen, I'll start with you down in Foxborough. Phil, what did we see when we saw Mac Jones and the other quarterbacks when that extended window was available to the media?
Business as usual. That's what we saw. That's what I saw while I was out there at practice this afternoon. Giles, Mac Jones, first up in the team periods that were specifically focused on the offense, and Mac Jones working with starting center David Andrews. Bailey Zappi and Will Greer filled in behind. But, Tom, this looked like what we have seen from Patriots practices in the past when Mac Jones has been the starter. And both Tom and I, through our reporting, it's our understanding that there hasn't been a decision made just yet.
Yeah, and that's from two different sources, so no decision yet made on Mac Jones, even though it seemed for all the world like a decision was made when Bailey Zappi took the field in that 2-minute drill, because not only the pick was seemingly unforgivable and one you couldn't come back from, but for Bill Belichick, it seemed like a decision that you don't come back from. And enough is enough. The straw that broke the camel's back, we can't go back to that ever again. But maybe with the passage of time and the scrutiny that you're going to devote to your quarterback room, you conclude differently and say, well, maybe we shouldn't be too hasty here.
Andy, what's your take on this?
So first of all, it's a bye week, right? We need to remember that this is not a game preparation week. So
Still
you have
10 days
extra
away.
time,
Yeah.
and they all tell us, right, this is spent cleaning up the stuff from the early part of the season or last week. Well, that was all Mac. So, like, you could kind of talk yourself into why Mac would be out there with the first unit. He was out there with the first unit before. I also think that they're not going to tip their hand. We know if there's one thing Bill cares about more than anything else, it's deception and manipulation of the media and the narrative and all those things. By just putting Bailey Zappi out behind David Andrews on the first day of practice, like in the bye week, okay, this becomes a circus more than it is now. And then I would also say, and Tom's right, like it looked like at the end of that game, I'm with Tom, I'm with Gronk, that this was wow, you can't come back from this. That horrific throw, and then you're benched in a one-score game that you can still win. But I do wonder, was that an emotional decision? I know Bill doesn't often make a lot of emotional decisions. It's well thought out. If anything, he's sort of stone-faced on the sideline. I wonder in the time since if he's like, wow, that was probably not the greatest thing for my team to pull him in that situation. I think there's still an evaluation going on, because if we're all going to be honest, Mac Jones is the best quarterback. You don't have much to turn to.
So to keep him as the starting quarterback would be an unemotional decision in your words? That's actually the question we're asking you guys at home. We wanted you to join the conversation. We've got a poll question out there. Mac Jones as the Patriots starting quarterback would be a blank decision. Smart, questionable, absurd, unemotional.
Swear word.
NBCSportsBoston.com/early edition. That's where you can vote. Scan the QR code you see on the screen and scroll down to the poll question. Curran, how would you vote in this situation? If Mac Jones is the starting quarterback in 10 days, how would you describe that decision?
Understandably bleak. You like that? Is that an option? Can somebody
it seems along the lines of absurd, yeah.
Well, yeah, because, look, the Patriots were negligent in staffing the quarterback position, understanding that Mac Jones was coming back from a season in which he did not play particularly well. When you understand that, and you're looking at Bailey Zappi, all 5'11" of them, coming from a Division II school, whatever we call it now, and expecting him to be a heartbeat away from what we, at least the Patriots themselves, myself included, thought might be a playoff team, it didn't make any sense to me from jump. It didn't make sense to me at all through preseason and training camp. I said they have to get a better quarterback in here, a better option in here, and they didn't do so. So now you look at that room, and 3 times he's been in relief, and he hasn't performed any better than he did in the preseason or training camp. He's not a good enough quarterback in the NFL. Maybe 3 years from now in some other city, Bailey Zappi will be able to be a serious backup. But right now, he's not that. So you look at him and you look at Mac and you say, he sucked, but he went 15 for 20 with no protection.
Yeah, I might fill in that blank, Giles, with standard operating procedure or that kind of decision. I've already obviously forgotten the entire sentence that you spit at us just a moment ago. But this would be, again, business as usual. I think if Mac Jones had someone behind him who was more capable, as Tom is describing, he would have been on the bench a month ago, 6 weeks ago. If they had another option to turn to, then I think that would have happened by now. They don't. So what we've seen after the Cowboys game, after the Saints game, what we have seen is that they have stuck with Mac Jones because they believe he gives them the best opportunity to win. And that's why one source I spoke to in the building today told me he wouldn't be shocked if Mac Jones was their starter against the Giants because they're going to pick the guy that they think gives them the best chance to win, and that still might be Mac Jones.
So that would be smart in our poll. I think if you're saying standard operating procedure, we would have to go with the first option of smart there from Phil. Andy, so if it was emotional to pull him, what is it to then go back to him?
Regrettable. I mean, I think you're going to regret almost whatever you do, right? But we know what they think about the quarterbacks for one simple reason. There's only one quarterback on the depth chart in the roster that hasn't been cut this year. That's Mac Jones. The rest were cut, right? So that tells you what they think of these guys. And they've screwed around with it. They did the whole thing in Vegas with Malik Cunningham as the back. They've done so many different things. But the only guy on that list you're seeing right now who's not been cut in the National Football League this year is Mac Jones. So doesn't that kind of make a strong argument for Mac Jones to start?
It does, but you could also look at it and say, all right, if he's lost the locker room, isn't that the reason to maybe look at some of the other options? And
yeah, but they can lose the locker room just as quickly by going out there. Bailey Zappi, every time he comes in, looks as bad or worse than Mac Jones. So my guess is, yes, emotional as human beings, we're like, that guy stinks. We need a change. We all do this. We bitch in the office about coworkers. And then when you get the change, like a half a day in, you're like, oh, now I know why this guy didn't do the job before. He stinks worse than the other guy. I think you would kind of regret it either way. It's regrettable. But no matter what they do, it's regrettable.
No, yeah, it's questionable. I think questionable is the only way to go. Yeah. I think it's somewhere down the middle. You can make arguments on either side. I think you need to make the change for the locker room, though, in the sense that, Curran, you have players that are in there that there's probably even some guys who were Bailey Zappi guys a year ago. Fair or not, and whether they're right or not, probably Bailey Zappi guys. Maybe you have some guys in there that say we need to see Will Grier. And maybe it's not such a bad idea for Mac Jones to sit down for a few games and just see what's in front of him.
I actually felt that way after New Orleans. And I do think that there was emotion involved in Bill Belichick's decision to take Mac Jones out, but I don't think that it was emotional in that he looked at it and said, he's misfiring, he is malfunctioning, there's smoke coming out of his ears, I can't use him. I think that was analytically the correct decision. Just as on this Wednesday, we can objectively look at it and see the logic behind saying, not Mac's good and should start. It's just that the whole thing is so chaotic and so effed up from Jump Street that that's the only option you're left with. So the two things can be accurate. You have to go back to something that you could not have gone back to a couple days ago because you look at your other options. You asked me a question, I've already forgotten that.
That's okay. I want to jump in here, though, because I want to try to remind myself as we go through the second half of the season here, what is this season about? Mm-hmm. I'm trying to put myself in Bill Belichick's shoes, although who knows what Bill Belichick's doing after the season. Put myself in ownership's shoes or in Bill O'Brien, maybe Gerard Mayo's shoes, guys that might still be here next year. What is this year about? To me, it's about finding out what you have for next year and what kind of roles some of these players can play next year. And so the benefit, even if I think Mac Jones is the best quarterback on the roster who's going through a horrible time, even if that's the case, I might want to see a change at that position just to see if it elevates the others on the roster. If it brings some sort of new energy, some sort of new morale, just to see a different face in the huddle for the opening drive against the Giants in a couple weeks, that might do me more good as a decision maker on the Patriots right now, looking ahead to next year, because I might get a better look at the players around that quarterback position.
And I would say this too about the emotion. I do remember the question was about the locker room. Yeah, I mean, there's a resignation, I think, that if you see Mac go out there, you say, all right, I guess we're just going to keep doing this. We're punching the clock. We're not doing anything different. Same old, same old. So you risk, in one way, culturally saying, well, we've just kind of quit. If you're going to put that guy back out there, we've quit. Love him. Can't watch him.
And the one thing I wanted to add is I've fallen into the trap of, well, put Will Grier out there. We know the other guys all stink. I don't know much about Will Grier. But if you look at Will Grier's track record, Will Grier has started 2 games in the NFL, 0 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 200 total yards passing. Their losses, that was 5 years ago. So, oh, and by the way, he's older than Patrick Mahomes. So he's not even some developmental option. Will Grier deserved to be cut. Will Grier not good. So even if you go with the devil I don't know, I want the other devil, he's a devil.
Okay.
But here's the thing.
Go ahead, Thomas.
On that, too, with Will Grier, you have depth behind the starter. The starter, if he is unsuitable, you already know the backup isn't working out, so you have to go to door number 3. Regardless, just try it. If it's a half of him and he stinks, you got to get him out. Or at least give him practice reps and make sure that he stinks. To me, you have made your bed. Now you have to sleep in it. He's on your roster. If he's the only option that you don't know yet how he'll perform, no matter what he did 5 years ago or how bad he has seemed, if he can perform in practice and know where the ball's supposed to go, I think you have made your bed and you have to sleep in it and put him out there.
And I will say this, too. Like, did anyone expect Bailey Zappi to perform the way he did last year when they picked up those wins over Cleveland and against Detroit? So
you're saying there's a chance?
I'm just saying we saw that, so you never know. 56% of people think it would be absurd if Mac Jones is the starting quarterback in 10 days when they're taking on the Giants.